My name is Jeff Lopez, and I'm proud to be your MC this morning for our event. We are having a Patriot Day remembrance today here, and I thank you for all joining us. Thank you to the city employees and the city council members and others who are taking the time out of their day to come together and remember this from our history. It's 8:55. And at 8:46 this morning, we had crews lined up out in front of fire stations waiting at the flags, and now all of them are joined by us here at our memorial. And I'd like to go ahead and invite Chaplain Roger Wingnow up to the podium to begin with a prayer for us.
Good morning, everyone. Would you please pray with me? Lord, we're gathered here today to take some time out from our normal routines and our busy schedules to just pause, to remember, and to reflect on that terrible day in 2001 when our lives were changed forever. We can't go to any public venue today and not see the impacts of that most tragic day. But we're here today to remember and honor the men, women, and children who lost their lives that day, who went to work that morning thinking it was just going to be another day at the office, but never made it home. We're here to remember and honor the firefighters, police, and first responders who rushed into those buildings that day while everyone else was running out, who were responding to their call of duty and fulfilling their mission to serve and protect. And we're here to remember the families whose lives were changed forever when their loved ones never returned home that day. In today's world, people tend to have short memories, and the disasters of today shortly become just dim memories. Many in the current generation weren't even born in 2001. But may we commit to never forget the devastation of that day. In Deuteronomy 4:9, we're told, "Do not let these memories escape you as long as you live, and be sure to pass them on to your children and grandchildren." This morning we remember all those who lost their lives today. We remember their courage and selflessness of the firefighters, the law enforcement officers, and military personnel who rushed into the Twin Towers without a second thought and who never returned. We also remember those that survived but developed severe injuries and illnesses, and we remember all of the families that were left behind and torn apart that day. And as we remember that day, we also want to pray for our own first responders, the police, fire, and marine safety personnel who put it on the line each and every day, 24/7, to protect our wonderful Huntington Beach community. Remind us, Lord, to continually hold them up in prayer for their wisdom and safety each day. Lord, as we remember and reflect, it reminds us of the brevity and uncertainty of life and of our need and dependence on you. In your word, you tell us that in the last days that lawlessness would abound, and we see that being played out in the news each and every day. But you also told us that when we see these things happening, that we should look up for the ultimate peace, unity, hope, and comfort that only you can bring. May this day be a continual reminder of our need and dependence on you. And we ask these things in your wonderful and precious name, Jesus. Amen.
Thank you, Roger. I would now like to ask everybody to stand for the presentation of the colors by the Huntington Beach Joint Fire and Police Honor Guard. Uniformed personnel, attention.
Company, halt. The base. Prepare to post. Post. Colors. Recover. Present all.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order arms.
Thank you.
Face. Forward, march.
You may be seated. In just a few minutes, we're going to be hearing some radio traffic. We're going to have, as we have in years past, Orange County Fire Authority will have a tribute statement, and they will, right at 9:03, so you can all help me watch for this. It's 9:01 right now. Right at 9:03, they will have a statement they will read. 9:03 is, of course, the time that the second plane hit the second tower. As I stated when we opened, 8:46 is when the first plane hit. And so all over the county right now, as far as with the Orange County area that we're dealing with, we've got fire personnel at their fire stations, standing out in front of the flags, and we are looking forward to another opportunity to recognize, of course, the thousands that were lost that day. And special to our hearts in public safety also are the fire and police and others in public safety that we lost that day. We may have, depending on the weather participating with us here, a flyover at the conclusion of the statement. And so we'll see how we go. So we're moments away from them beginning their announcement, and I will do my best to not give you a ton of feedback as I put it on the microphone here.
All uniformed personnel, attention. Uniformed personnel, present arms. As we remember the tragic events of September 11th, 2001, we honor the memory of those who made the ultimate sacrifice. We pay tribute to those who put themselves in harm's way so that others may live. In doing so, we renew our pledge to never, ever forget. Order, arms. Please join me in a moment of silence as we remember the 2,996 people who perished on that fateful day. Uniformed personnel dismissed. This concludes the Orange County Fire Service Remembrance Ceremony. God bless America.
Now at this point for our ceremony, I would like to welcome some speakers. We're going to begin with Mayor Lynn Sameta, if she would like to join me at the podium.
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the City Council, I want to welcome all of you here this morning to this solemn ceremony where we honor and remember all of those who lost their lives on September 11th, 2001. We especially honor those who gave their lives rescuing others that fateful day. We now know that almost as many workers involved in the rescue and cleanup have died from the toxins they were exposed to in the aftermath. So today we honor them as well. The events of 9/11 nearly 20 years ago and all that happened in the days and months following are forever etched in the minds of every person who was alive that day. For most of us, the memories we hold of that morning are sharp and clear. The exact moment we learned what was happening, the image of the plane crashing into the side of the tower, where we were, who we were with, and the horror we felt as we watched our country suffer through an inconceivable tragedy. Months after 9/11, I had an opportunity to visit the site to pay my respects to the lives lost that day. First, I was hit by the sight of the cavernous holes in the earth that we now view as sacred ground, where avalanches of steel came crashing down, taking with them human lives. But it is the little St. Paul's Chapel across the street that miraculously survived without even a pane of glass broken that for me holds the most profound memory. As the recovery work started on the World Trade Center site, hundreds of rescue workers came to search for survivors. They began to stop by the chapel to rest after long shifts. The chapel opened its doors and began to serve food and provide supplies. In the first 3 months, more than 3,000 workers passed through that chapel. New Yorkers brought food, supplies, work gloves, boots, and other things for the police officers, firefighters, and other workers. Their contributions were a way to show their deep appreciation for the physically and emotionally exhausting work the rescuers were doing. Doctors, nurses, lawyers, counselors, and clergy came to help them recover from their labor at Ground Zero. Soon the fence around that chapel became a spontaneous memorial with banners, letters, religious items, and mementos. And that is what I encountered when I went to Ground Zero, this makeshift shrine that the chapel had become, honoring the first responders and rescue workers, a place that in the worst of the aftermath had been a place of hope, support, and reconciliation. As I recall those memories today, I am struck by how history informs our world and seems to repeat itself in certain ways during challenging times of COVID that we face now. Our first responders have worked long hours, have taken on tasks to keep our community safe that go beyond what they expected, and have shown innovation, creativity, and problem solving to provide ways to keep us safe. And as we watch the ashes from wildfires raging around us falling from the sky this last week, we are eerily reminded of the ashes that fell from the towers that day. We are reminded of the debt we owe those who died trying to save lives when the towers fell. And while the magnitude of what we're challenged by today is certainly not equal to that tragedy, we are also reminded of the debt we owe our first responders who have cared for us during this pandemic. Like the community surrounding the Trade Center towers, members of our Huntington Beach community have come forward and shown us how much they value and appreciate our public safety officers this year. And for that, I am grateful. Last night, as I thought about what I might say to you here today, I looked at the remarks that I made at last year's Patriot Day ceremony at the pier and was struck by how prophetic my words were that day, and how those words are even more applicable to the events that have happened in our country this year. Last year, this is what I said. With all the devastation and despair that was brought upon our country on 9/11, the events were also a catalyst for unifying our country and even the world. We came together that day, we supported each other, and we grieved collectively for the lives lost. That unity is something we need to remember, to hold on to, and to remind our young people who may not have been alive during that time. When divisiveness emerges in our community, my hope is that we can be inspired by that unity that emerged that day, and we can let it guide us to be more gentle towards each other and more supportive of each other. Thank you for being here this evening. Thank you to American Legion Post 133 for once again putting on this solemn but cherished ceremony, and for providing the avenue for all of us to pay our respects and appreciation.
Thank you. Let's do this. Our next speaker is going to present to us a story of inspiration that came from the events of September 11th. And I'd like to invite Sergeant Juan Munoz to the podium.
Good morning. I chose to speak about two young men who was inspired about this event. The first one was Stuart Gaskin. He was 15 years old when he was excited to celebrate his birthday on September 11th, 2001. Instead, he got to watch this event in his second period world history class. What the teacher didn't know was that Stuart's father worked at the Pentagon, and poor Stuart got to watch as a Boeing 757 slammed into that building. He watched in horror, and he prayed, and he pleaded, and he cried. And he spent an agonizing 9 hours until his father was found. And thank God he was alive. He got a second chance. Stuart wrote about it, and he said, he described himself as a pacifist. He said, 9/11 changed my mindset. It changed something inside of me. It made me want to fight for my country. We all became vulnerable that day. It became real. A few years later, he enlisted in the military and became a U.S. Marine. He's still a Marine today. Thousands of young men and women like Stuart Gaskin enlisted in the military because they grew up in the shadow of 9/11, most of which don't even remember the world before it. Some said that they joined the military because they wanted some type of control in a world that was seemingly spinning out of control. Others said they wanted to fight for freedom because they understood that freedom was not free. I know that you have heard this before, and freedom is just one generation away from extinction. You see, you and I, we have to teach our children about what happened back here. If you don't, someone else will, and it may not be what really happened. On September 11, 2001, nearly 3,000 people were killed. 343 firemen, 60 police officers. The attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon resulted in the largest loss of life by a foreign attack on American soil. A complete disaster. You know, a couple of days ago, my nephew, Zachary Branson, gave me a phone call. He's in the military. He's in the Army. So I took the opportunity to ask him, hey, why did you join? And without hesitation, he said, hey man, 9/11. So we talked about it, and he told me this. He goes, Uncle Juan, I remember where I was. I remember who was I with, what I was eating, what I was wearing that day. I remember everything. And I am willing to bet that most people here do remember. As we were talking, he said something that I found to be very insightful, so I wrote it down. And it kind of changed what I was going to say, thanks to what he said. He said this. He said, Uncle Juan, after thinking about the attacks, I realized some of us must become defenders and some of us must become supporters so all of us could be free. That came from a 30-year-old. Very smart, very insightful. You see, he gets it. He understands that you and us in uniform, we're a team. Without you, we cannot serve you properly. Without your support, we cannot serve the community with the service you guys deserve. You don't believe me? Turn on the news. Watch what's going on in those cities around the country in which community leaders are refusing to support their first responders. They are a freaking disaster. You know, when I came over here, I watched a lot of you come over here and kind of read the plaques and look around. And I thought to myself, we come here year after year and we subject ourselves to these painful memories because we understand that we have to fight for our freedom, that we need to remember. You and I, we will always be faced with a choice, either to surrender our freedom or to fight for it. Stuart Gaskin and my nephew, Zachary Branson, they understood that choice. They understood what they had to do, so they chose to serve and to fight. You see, we fight by serving and we fight by supporting. Both are equally important. So I'm asking all of us today, let's just be like them. Choose to fight, to serve, or choose to support. Our way of life depends on it. Thank you.
Our next speaker will present a tribute to a member of the Public Safety Services there in New York who we lost on that day, Captain Travis Terich, if you can join me.
Good morning. My name's Travis Tarich. I am a fire captain here with the Huntington Beach Fire Department, and I am honored to stand here representing the 343 fallen firefighters from 9/11. I call it a fire family because it is a family. I know that that's become a cliche, but it's absolutely true. These are my brothers right here and sisters, and we live together and we serve together, and the dedication and the sacrifice that was made on 9/11 by these firefighter family members was the ultimate sacrifice, but it's no less sacrifice than anyone who's standing here would make if those events were to occur today. I know for me personally, when I was asked to share about somebody who lost their life on that fateful day, I started doing the research, right, and started looking through the numbers, because it's very, I think, easier for us as human beings to erect the memorials and to put the decals on and to raise the flag on the morning of 9/11, and essentially it becomes something of the history books. It becomes just a thing that happened. And what I wanted to do, of course, was dig into the stories and find out who these people were, because they were people. They were exactly like me. And the person I connected with, that I'm going to share with you, the reason I connected with his story is because his story is my story. And his story is a lot of your story. And certainly the uniformed officers and firefighters right here, it's their story as well. And so I'm hoping that in my brief moments here, I could get you to imagine that Mike Camarata is standing here. Because guess what? He and I are the same age. Same age. If he had survived the attacks of 9/11, he could be standing here. And the roles could be reversed, and he would have been asked to talk about Travis Tarich and what he meant to the nation and to the fire family. But he's not a symbol, he's a human being. He had family, he had hopes, he had dreams, and he was so young. He was 22 years old, just finishing the tower at the fire academy on the day of 9/11. So I'll share with you his story, but again, it's my story. It's the same as me. He was excited to take over on Ladder 11, where his uncle had served for 33 years and wear his same shield number of 1138. I too am a generational firefighter. I'm third generation. My grandfather worked for 35 years. My father worked here. Some of you know Mick Tarich, if you're old. And he worked here for 33 years. I was the little kid that would come down to Station 5, to Lake Station, and climb on the engine and slide down the fire pole because the fire pole's so cool. So I was that kid. And my uncle also served as a firefighter down in Vista. My cousin serves as a firefighter down in San Diego County. So again, when I connected with Mike's story, I'm not lying when I say that it's my story. And hopefully you can hear the words, you can humanize Mike, you can look at the plaque in a different way when you see the 343 names and the 60 officers and all those who lost their lives, and remember that those were people just like us. They were exactly like us. And so on September 11, 2001, at 8:54 a.m., from the firehouse on East 2nd Street in Alphabet City, Ladder Company 11, a phone call was made to the Camarata family from their youngest son, Michael. He left a message on his father's voicemail stating, "I'm going to the World Trade Center. A plane just hit. Just tell everyone that I'm all right." And those are the last words that he said to his family. So Michael was born on October 7th of 1978, making him only 22 years old on the date of the attack. So again, we're the exact same age. He was looking forward to graduating from the fire academy, and being permanently assigned to Ladder 11, and he was given the gift of his uncle's shield that he got to wear, which was number 1138. As Mike grew up, he was a phenomenal athlete. That's where our stories diverge. Accomplishing many goals. He played Little League Baseball. He was an all-star. In fact, he competed in the Little League World Series, and he reached second in the United States and placed third in the world ranking, for those of you who are Little League World Series fans. While being a perfectionist at baseball, he was really an all-star at hockey. And at the age of 6, Michael played ice hockey. He played throughout the U.S. and Canada, and by 11, he was playing on the junior varsity for the Tauntonville high school team. Think about that. He was 11 years old playing on the high school team. And he was still in intermediate school at the time. As he continued to travel the country and Canada playing hockey, he moved on to become a student at Tauntonville High School, making the varsity team. As a sophomore, he won Sportsman of the Year. As a junior, he was the assistant captain, the best defenseman of the league. At the end of his junior season, he was an all-star for the New York Ice Hockey Association, and he achieved the MVP award from his team. As a senior in high school, as the captain of the team, MVP for the second time, he won Best Defenseman and the scoring title for the first time in New York high school hockey history. So those hockey fans who know, this guy scored the goals and was the best defenseman in the league. He was scouted by Wagner College Hockey Club on Staten Island and soon was named Rookie of the Year in 1996. In 97, as a sophomore in college, he was the youngest ever to be named the MVP in their history. In 97, he led his team to the Metropolitan Collegiate Conference championship title. And then in 98, he led the team to another championship. So Mike was an exceptional player and person. In 1999, Michael left college to work in the building industry with his father. And during this time, he was anxiously awaiting a call to be accepted for a job as a firefighter. This is what he had wanted since he was a little boy. Michael scored an impressive 105 perfect score on the New York firefighters test with a list number of 345. He was quickly called to duty and sworn in as a firefighter on May 3rd of 2001. So he was only months on the job. He had a passion and love for the job. He was in his 14-week training program awaiting official graduation, but unfortunately he was not given the opportunity to be part of his graduation. And he's been confirmed missing since September 11th. Michael had an extreme love and closeness for his family, friends, and fellow firefighters. His personality made light of any dark situation. Some friends of Michael would say that he had the utmost class, with his brother saying, "You could never find a better best friend." He was determined and free-spirited, and Michael was not a hero since September 11th of 2001, but he was born that way. Michael left a letter in his drawer, if anything should ever happen to me. Number 1, take care of Jenna, who was his girlfriend. Number 2, don't mourn me, this is the career I chose. Number 3, make my spirit live on. And I hope we're doing that. And number 4, remember that I love you all and I'll be waiting for you upstairs. Signed, Michael Camarada, Shield number 1138. Michael had many accomplishments and took a lot of responsibility because he chose goals and put all of his effort into reaching them. Knowing Mike means being able to say that he went to the World Trade Center that day knowing he may not be coming home, but he did it to save countless lives. Some families may have a child or children, a mother or father, thanks to Mike and all those who responded from the FDNY, NYPD, and all EMS workers. Michael is truly New York's bravest. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Garrett. We changed that up a little bit this year, and we'll probably continue to do that as we proceed and give you stories of folks that we've lost and help us connect a little more personally with the events that occurred that day. So far from here, but yet we were all experiencing it quite closely through television and all the other experiences we had. So next, we're going to have a presentation by the American Legion, a short awards presentation. I'm going to invite Robert McLeish to the podium, and if Mayor Sameta and Chief Haberle and Assistant Chief Rodriguez can come up as well. Thank you.
Well, I lost my voice last night, so I apologize up front, but this is for the Police Officer of the Year. It's going to be presented to David Avelos, Huntington Beach Police Department. awarding the outstanding public service benefiting our community. So if David could come up.
You have to come front and center over here. Can't get off that easy. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Mayor Semeta and esteemed guests, for visiting us today and celebrating this special event with us. I'd like to thank the American Legion for recognizing excellence in public safety and participating in today's event. It is my honor to talk about our Officer of the Year, David Avelos. David, I'll just give you a little bit of background about why he's so special. I'm not going to be able to list everything, but I'll go through it pretty quick. David has been with the Huntington Beach Police Department since 2016 after serving in the United States Marine Corps. Hoorah. David is deserving of this award for so many reasons based on the number of nominations he received, I should put my glasses on, by his peers and supervisors. He is described as a hardworking, assertive officer, yet displays empathy, understanding, attentiveness when going about his duties. Officer Avelos works extremely well within small unit capacity and is highly respected. He consistently displays a calm, collective demeanor, even on fast-paced calls. Officer Avelos led patrol and arrest with 134 misdemeanors and 21 felonies, with a significant portion of them being officer-initiated. Included in his stats are over 25 DUI-related arrests. And obviously that's a big deal, the officer initiation. It's not just citizens calling him, it's him actively going out and looking, which is a big deal. Younger officers and peers alike consult with David for advice and guidance with work-related issues. Due to his mature mindset, rigorous work ethic, and dedication to the department, he was recently selected to be a field training officer, something almost never given to an officer with his tenure. Avelos holds several ancillary duties, none of which deter from his performance as a patrol officer. He is a drug recognition expert and has assisted in evaluating drivers involved in 2 separate fatal traffic collisions. David also assists with the K-9 unit and his role as an agitator, where he regularly trains and gets bit with the K-9 unit. So thank you and congratulations, Dave.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, so the next award is going to the Firefighter of the Year, presented to Captain Bill Suri, Huntington Beach Fire Department, again for outstanding public service and benefiting our community. So if Captain Bill can come up. Someone's going to start here.
So thank you, and I want to thank the American Legion for this honor today. I think the idea that your sacrifice and your service to our country, and the fact that you would think of us today and to have an award for us, is truly humbling for us to do that, because we look to you as the example. We look to you as the leaders in our community about service and about sacrifice. Thank you very much for this award today, so thank you. So this is, to get to talk about Bill is pretty awesome. Bill has such an amazing enthusiasm, personality, and love for Huntington Beach. He's not just a firefighter; he's a Huntington Beach firefighter, and I think that's such a thing that we see here as a culture within our department. Some of the first people I got to meet in Huntington were his wife Amy and Bill, right when I started here, and I remember walking away thinking, I'm really going to like this place. I'm really going to have a good time. I think the way he talks about the department, the passion, his leadership is so not only inspiring, but it's contagious. If you talk with him and work with him, if you get to know him at all, which I know many of you do, is that he grew up in Huntington Beach, so he is a product of our community. In addition, he's worked through a lot of the ranks: ambulance operator, firefighter, engineer, and now fire captain, the assignment he currently has right now. And you can tell when you talk to them, not only does he have a passion for the city first, passion for the fire service and his family, and that comes out in each interaction I have with him. And like I said, that's something that I think is so valuable today, and he really embodies the 1 HP model, where it's not about, when we're going through this, going through the pandemic as we're going through and all the challenges in this time, You know, Bill's the one, when you talk there, he has this positive attitude, strong, about closing ranks, working together and doing that. And I think Bill is just such an exceptional leader at that. And there's a lot of things we can talk about, things that he's done community-wise, but Bill just really embodies 1HB, and I think that's such an important thing for our community right now, especially. So with that, I want to say thank you very much, Captain Surrey, for everything. His wife Amy is here with him to enjoy this recognition, and so thank you very much.
The next award is going to the Marine Safety Officer of the Year. That would be Sterling Foxcroft from the Huntington Beach Marine Safety Department.
So again, to talk about Sterling, it's a really interesting story in that the first time I met Sterling was in the Emergency Operations Center. We were really in the beginning of this pandemic, and as we set up in the EOC, we realized we needed to start messaging our community quickly, and we needed to change those messages on a rapid basis. And today with social media, really you've got to put out infographics and artwork that people can see right away, understand what it is, and we need to keep drip marketing that constantly to the community so they know what to do. Because it was in the beginning, everything was changing constantly. The requirements, how we were opening, what we were closing, when to wear masks, all those things were constantly in flux. And you need somebody who can put that together. And it was interesting, our PIO at the time said, hey, we have somebody in Marine Safety that used to do that work prior to being a lifeguard, and he's quite talented at it, and let's bring him in the EOC and see what we can do. Came in, we talked to him for a minute. I got to meet him, and he's just such a great personality, so helpful, and all of a sudden he's like, yeah, I'm in, I'm good. And 5 minutes later, he comes back with his computer from his house, his Apple computer, because when you're designing, you gotta have the Apple, right? So he brought his Apple computer from the house, went in the EOC, and put out literally thousands of infographics. Everything you see, the signage everywhere throughout the city, the mask up signs you see in downtown, that's all his artwork, his design. And I will tell you, if imitation is the highest form of flattery, it is everywhere, not only in Orange County, but in LA County. It would be nice if they would have called and asked. But they took our symbol off and dropped their symbol on, and we see his stuff everywhere. And that's great, because that's his personality, his style. He's happy to help. But I think that what makes him even more unique in this time is that the thing we want to highlight, and what I didn't bring up with Captain Surrey, is that the crews, the team picks who's going to receive the honor. It's not from administration, it's from the crews, the rank and file. And I think that makes it even more special, and it makes it something unique, because this is the people they're working with every day. And what Sterling did during that time, it was kind of this crazy time, and although he's a lifeguard, he grew up surfing, this is his passion, is the ocean and the water, and you can tell that when you talk with him. But we didn't need lifeguards right at that point. We needed somebody to help with that. And the mind switch, the kind of 1HB concept I talked about, that was exactly what he did, embodied that, and worked tirelessly 7 days a week, many hours a day, from home and work, just putting out work after work after work. Now I will say, when the summer got closer, you can't tell because he has his mask on, but when the summer got closer, he started to smile a little bit when he skipped the sand on his feet again. And although he still continued to do that, so we needed him in the summer. Now that we're getting busier, he went down to work his normal job, but then at night, the weekends, and after hours, he was still putting out PIO assignments the entire time. I think that is such a great example of the fact that we have a lot of talent here in Huntington Beach. We have a lot of talented city employees, but during this time, it wasn't about if you worked in public works, police, or fire. It was about what did the community need and how can we serve you best. And I think he embodies that entire concept. Just really fascinating and fantastic work. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, and obviously it's great to take advantage of these times when we can see and stand and look at and shake hands with our public safety folks, unlike some of the stories we have to read afterwards. So thank you for your hard work and service, all of you, and you can go ahead and return as we bring this to a close. Thank you. So that'll bring our presentation, our Patriot Day ceremony, to a conclusion. I would like to ask Chaplain Wing to go ahead and close us in prayer and dismiss us.
Would you please bow with me again as we close our time together in prayer? Lord, This morning we've remembered and honored those who gave their lives 19 years ago. And we pray as 19 years have passed and many memorials have been dedicated and built, that our resolve would be strengthened in remembering and honoring those who were lost that day. And may we resolve to continue to strive for the ultimate victory for faith, family, and freedom in our country. And as we do that, we also remember the men and women serving us every day in our military, protecting us against an enemy that has a goal of destroying our country and our faith in you. We ask for your continued protection on them. Lord, your word tells us that the men and women who serve our communities and our country are your representatives, appointed by you for our common good. We give you thanks for them, Lord, and ask for your continual blessing, guiding, and protection as they serve. Our country was founded on a faith, belief, and trust in you, God. In recent years, and especially now, we have found ourselves drifting away from that foundation. But you remind us in your word that if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, that I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. We do pray for a healing in our country and in the world. We also pray for an awakening of our faith and our dependence on you. May we continue to serve you and represent you faithfully. And may we once again be a nation that can truly say, in God we trust. As we leave here this morning, may we continue to pause and reflect on just how blessed we are to live in such a great country and such a wonderful city. And may that reflection cause each of us to praise you and draw near to you. We ask for your continued blessing, Lord, on the land of the free and the home of the brave. And may you continually unite us as one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And it's in your most holy name, Lord, that we pray these things. Amen.
Thank you, Roger. Thank you all. You're dismissed.